What secrets are kept by the abandoned mansions of millionaires? What could have made the owners desert their home, leaving all the property inside? Unmade beds, dirty dishes in the sink, pools full of dry leaves, and unfinished game of billiards. It almost seems like time stood still. Today, we will visit the most incredible and breathtaking abandoned mansions of millionaires, among which there is the house of Steve Jobs, Bruce Lee, and the mansion of Mike Tyson himself. But we won't ramble for much longer. If you have seen The Hangover, then you know that this guy loves big pets. Large cages for tigers give away the former owner. Yes, this is Mike Tyson's abandoned mansion. In the heyday of his sports career, the world boxing legend loved to go on wild spending sprees. Mike bought this big house back in 1980. Sadly, he met the new millennium deeply in debt, and the once elegant and nicely maintained mansion was left uncared for. Tyson resided in the Ohio mansion until March 26, 1992, when he was convicted and sentenced to 6 years in prison for allegedly committing rape. Further problems with the law and a difficult financial situation forced Mike to put the house up for sale. In 2003, Tyson declared bankruptcy, spending over $300 million. By that time, businessman Paul Monea had already bought the luxury residence for $1.3 million. Monea never lived in the house and was eventually detained by FBI agents on money laundering charges. In 2010, businessman Ron Hemmelgarn bought the estate at an auction for only $600,000. Like the previous owner, Ron did not live a single day in the mansion. In 2014, 4 years after the purchase, he donated it to church employees who wanted to turn it into a sanctuary.
Get the fuck out of here!
Well, that did not happen. As of 2017, there is no church in the territory, and the mansion retained its original appearance. It has an incredible 1,250 square meters of interior space, once white and now worn carpet with zebra print, crystal chandeliers in all 5 bedrooms, a huge swimming pool, and an impressive backyard area with large enclosures for 3 Bengal tigers, once owned by Mike Tyson himself. Iron Mike, who still remains one of the most famous celebrities in the world, said that his popularity helped him to once again become a millionaire by making appearances before the public with stories about his life and career. Now Mike has paid off his old debts and tries to be very careful with money. In France, estates of this level are called chateaux. For example, this abandoned house is Chateau Lumière, an incredible castle built in the beginning of the 1900s. It once belonged to a Swiss tobacco magnate, an interesting and significant figure for the history of local regions. However, the industrialist began to experience serious problems in the mid-20s. His health declined a lot, and soon he died. The mansion was bought by new owners, but they did not have enough means to maintain the house in proper condition. Chateau Lumière was again put up for sale. As a result of all the twists and turns, the building ended up in caretaker status. And although it is listed as a monument of architecture, it is actually left to disintegrate. There's a once luxurious car, Citroën CV2, rusting in the backyard. Nevertheless, the mansion's internal decoration is impressive. Gilding, beautiful antique fabric wallpaper, massive columns. It is hard to believe that all this stuff is still intact. Now we'll take a look at the Widener family estate. Linwood Hall, a 110-room mansion nicknamed the last American Versailles, is located in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. The castle, furnished with chairs from the palace of Louis XV, with halls filled with the works of Raphael and El Greco, has been going through hard times. As of June 2017, its cost is $16 million. At the same time, about $50 million are required for restoration. More than a century ago, the castle was built on the order of transport tycoon Peter Brown Widener. In 1912, his older son, George Widener, went to Paris together with his wife and son. On the way back, the family booked tickets for Titanic. After the vessel collided with an iceberg, Widener seated his wife and her maid in the boat number 4 and stayed on the sinking ship with his son. His father, Widener Sr., died 3 years after the tragedy. It was reported that he was in deep grief over the loss of his son and grandson. Linwood Hall never got a worthy owner. This abandoned house looks as if it is frozen in time. Such houses are absolutely breathtaking, especially if you know that it once belonged to the famous guitarist of Pink Floyd, David Gilmour. Why did the musician leave his stuff and disappear, as if caught in a sudden natural disaster? Reportedly, an unexploded bomb of the Second World War was found buried under Gilmour's house. When getting settled in his mansion in East Essex, David and his wife did not even suspect that they had been threatened with a 70-year-old bomb all this time. The star couple was urgently evacuated from their house, and a special unit liquidated the threat. However, the guitarist never returned to that house, and the luxurious estate was left gathering dust. The house of a true legend does the same. The old abandoned house of Bruce Lee himself. It has been put up for sale. Prior to that, it was privately owned by billionaire Hugh Penguin, who had initially turned it into a cheap motel with $25 per hour rooms rented out for unambiguous purposes, and then decided to turn it into the Actors Museum. The owner also planned to increase the mansion's area and build a cinema hall on its territory to screen movies with Bruce Lee. However, it was decided to put the house up for sale for $23 million due to lack of funding. Bruce Lee fans expressed doubts about the house retaining the atmosphere which it had during the life of Bruce. And while nothing has been decided yet, the abandoned building remains a place of secret pilgrimage of the actor's fans. The year 2011 was a fateful year for David Findle, the hapless wolf of Wall Street. That year, he got locked up for 5 years for swindling with mortgage and pleaded guilty to over $11 million of fraud. And here is his once chic, now abandoned mansion worth $7 million. Graffiti, broken glass, and garbage fill the rooms of the empty dwelling. Findle wanted to sell it, but could not do it due to the attachment imposed. After he was released, there was already nothing to sell. A fire had completely destroyed the once beautiful structure. This abandoned estate, which celebrated its 100th anniversary not so long ago, has been revived, but just for one night. The famous street artist, Hanksy, and 40 other enthusiasts breathed life into the old house, arranging a night art show. They worked hard to fill all surfaces of the crumbling building with fresh drawings, completely transforming the house in the creative process. Decorated in a special style, the abandoned mansion in Los Angeles was put up for sale for $90 million. Now, these people have some huge problems with taste. Direct proof that money can't buy a sense of style. Bright murals and unimaginable green ornaments on the walls would not look out of place only in Tony Montana's house. The structure of the former drug lord's abandoned mansion is somehow reminiscent of the one you saw in the movie Scarface. It was discovered by an American photographer, Jeff Hagerman. It was him who created the chilling photos of the neglected house. Unfortunately, there is no reliable information about the sad fate of its owner, and the criminal estate with clogged windows is unlikely to find a new owner in the near future. A huge abandoned mansion in Woodside, known as Jackling House, was the most intriguing place in this area once. Built in the Spanish colonial Renaissance style for copper tycoon Daniel Jackling, it was purchased by Steve Jobs in the 80s. Within a decade, the founding father of Apple lived in the posh housing and then rented it out. After a while, the mansion was neglected. In 2004, Jobs planned to demolish the pompous mansion and build a modern housing in its place. However, the city residents had a different opinion on this matter. The struggle with the supporters of historical heritage preservation lasted for several years. After many twists and turns, the court decided in favor of the entrepreneur and the house was demolished in 2011. However, Steve Jobs was never able to realize his vision of a new building as he died of pancreatic cancer several months later. In the English town of Peterborough, consonant with the Russian Petersburg, there is a rather spooky abandoned mansion belonging to the former head of the illegal biker club Banditos, the second largest in the world. Its owner, drug dealer and biker Robert Pamet, has ended up in prison. While detained, he intensely fought for getting his property back. For now, his looted mansion is explored by thrill seekers and just ordinary guys with cameras. There's another criminal mansion on our list. Spiral-shaped marble staircases, fountains, indoor waterfalls, and a clam-shaped hot tub. But there is dust on the staircases. The fountains are dry and full of leaves, and their decoration is falling apart into pieces. Well, here we have quite an interesting story. Originally, the mansion had belonged to a wealthy woman with cancer. She managed to get a special permission from the authorities to cultivate marijuana for treating her illness. No one knows where the owner disappeared, whether she died or just left the estate. But this is not the end of the story. It continues with a criminal plot of unscrupulous real estate agents, who came to inspect the mansion and discovered equipment for growing you-know-what. They launched their own small farm. They took electricity for pumps, lighting, and other equipment for free and did not bother with utility companies. However, it turned out they were not cut out to be electricians. As a result of network overload and further short circuit, a fire broke out on the territory of the marijuana fortress. The fire provoked such a strong, intoxicating smell that people could smell it for miles. After that, the illegal residents were arrested and the mansion stands abandoned to this day. Last but not least, Hacienda Pablo Escobar owned a territory of almost 20 square kilometers, including a private safari park, karting, and airport. The legendary Colombian drug lord spared no expense when it came to decorating his home with various eccentric details. The entrance to the estate was adorned with an exact copy of a Piper aircraft, but not any regular plane, oh no, the one that had delivered the first batch of cocaine to the United States. The whole territory was filled with statues of dinosaurs. A unique zoo with rhinoceroses, giraffes, and hippos was located there. They were erected there since the smell of fertilizer was stronger than that of the drugs. Eventually, when the luxurious estate was seized by Colombian agents, it quickly fell into despair. Looters and robbers took everything that could be carried away. The mansion was abandoned for a long time and was gradually covered with grasses. But today it hosts an amusement park, in the center of which there is a museum dedicated to the famous drug lord. 50,000 tourists visit this amazing place every year. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video.